Welcome to the Nature Unplugged podcast. This is very exciting. With me, your host, Sebastian Slovin, and with me, as usual, Sonia Mohammed.
Hey, everybody.
What's up, Sonia? How are you?
Great.
Good to see you.
Thanks. You too. It's been a while.
It's been a while since we've done a podcast. Excited to get back on track here. Had a little hiatus, but and I'm pumped for this episode. This is all going to be all about boundaries with our tech.
Yeah.
The tech in your life. And I think so we're right at a transition point. End of summer, beginning of fall, kids are back in school. Things are sometimes, some kids are back in school, some virtual, some hybrid,
Right.
But lots of changes happening.
Yes.
And we thought this would be a great time to talk about boundaries, talk about tech, and what changes you may be able to make to help with this transition and more structure.
Sounds great.
Sounds great.
Timely.
So we're talking about boundaries and the fall season. Very exciting. And before we jump into it, let's talk about some podcast updates.
Yeah, we've got some updates.
Update us, Sonia. Update us.
So, Joshua Tree trip was scheduled for not this weekend, but next weekend, and it's a little hot and it's quite a bit fiery. So we have postponed the trip to November. So now we've got a little bit more space. The weather's going to be a little cooler. It'll be November 13th through the 15th.
It's Friday the 13th.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even realize that.
It's going to be okay, though.
It will be okay. It should be beautiful in Joshua Tree, and it will be a blast. I'm looking forward to it. And that's it for the trip. We'll have more information on our website soon.
Yeah, more info on the website.
Yep. And
what else, Sonia? What else?
We've got, we're still running some ENU Adventures and pods. So if that's something you're looking for, they're, pod-friendly after-school programs or weekly adventures. We're going to customize the format to fit, everybody's individual needs, family's needs and interests, etc. So because they'll be a little smaller in terms of groups, we've got a lot more flexibility to do that, which is great. Usually makes it 10 times better.
Super great. And a little bit about ENU Adventures. What are they? That stands for Experience Nature Unplugged. And these are a small group. We take lots of precautions with COVID. So small group outdoor adventures, mostly with kids, some adults, but little adventures into nature, guided activities, and so forth.
Yeah, great.
What else?
So we've also got an Etsy store that we've been ramping up. I know, it's exciting. So we have...
This is what we do.
This is
during a pandemic.
Yeah, Etsy side hobbies that are functional. So we've been, creating lots of scavenger hunts, both for ourselves and for others, and those are available on Etsy. The digital downloads, they're great. There's a good variety of them. And we've also just put up face masks with matching lanyards that are nature inspired. And by that, it's like, I should have had one to show.
Oh, yeah.
But it's basically...
By show, just a heads up for the folks listening via podcast, there's more to come on this, but we are now filming this podcast for YouTube channel. So filmed and audio. Anyway, more on that to come.
Yes.
Describe it for us, the lanyard.
So you've got your mask, that loops around your ear, usually an elastic piece that loops around your ear, but most people don't really want to be wearing that mask longer than they need to be, if you're anything like me, at least. And so when I can take it off and it feels appropriate to do so, I do that, but then you've just got this mask that you're holding onto in your hand, and it's annoying. And so these lanyards clip onto the elastic of the mask, and they match, which is lovely. And then you can just almost wear it around your neck when you're not using it, which is great. So those, we've been making those in small batches with my sister, which has been fun. And those are available on our Etsy store, so check it out. Very exciting. That's
exciting.
Yeah.
Thanks for those updates. And I already mentioned this, but I want to rehash it. We started a YouTube channel. Very exciting. Here we are. So we're, among other things, we're going to be filming this podcast. And we thought this would be a really wonderful way for us to share some short videos, tips and tricks for how to live well with technology. And there's always a little bit of, I think, kind of a tension here with us, like how much do you do on social media? And we've sort of we've been pretty limited on that, how much we put out there, but we want to do more. I think using it, this is one example of using social media or platform like YouTube for good, like showing tips and tricks and different ways that people can find balance with technology and inspiring ways to get outside and play and do all the things, talk about all the things that we like to talk about.
Right, and specifically since we can't be doing as much in person right now,
Yeah,
this is a really nice way to get information, resources, and tools to people at no cost, which is great for us, great for everybody else. I feel like, and we're just excited to get information out on a new platform.
totally.
Yeah.
So those are the updates. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, transitioning now to the
Boundaries.
the boundaries.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
Boundaries. You know, on the one hand, it's pretty simple and straightforward. On the other hand, they can be kind of complex. And why don't we start with this? Like a lot of people, boundaries I think is pretty hip right now. The term, and
Okay,
it's hip
sure.
in like pop culture and psychology and all these
Mhm.
things. A lot of times used in like reference to relationships or
Yeah.
work or stuff like that. But let's talk about how we talk about boundaries might be a little different than other people. So let's rap about that.
Sure.
Sound good?
Yes.
Take it away.
Okay, cool. So we tend to talk about boundaries in 3 different ways.
Well, before I know, take it away, but I want
Okay.
to talk about.
Dear.
I think the idea of a boundary being like a container is a helpful
starting
place.
there. Okay.
Let's start there.
Sure. Well, that's pretty much it. A boundary is a container, or we see it as a container. It's a way to protect really the things that matter to us, and so that's a nice way to think about it. You can choose, whatever you want to visualize your boundary. Maybe it's a cup, maybe it's a box. I don't know. For me, it's helpful to visualize a boundary, but it's a way to basically put in the container the things that are really important and protect you from all the things outside of the container, the distractions, things like that get in the way or maybe jeopardize our ability to stay in touch with the things we like.
Totally.
You're laughing at me a little bit, I think.
No. I think that's great. I think I love how you're talking about the container. I think thinking about it as like, work or something precious that is inside the container.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a solid container, aka solid boundaries, you can get that work done without distraction and it getting sidetracked. If you have if there's kind of holes in your container, the boundaries aren't there, too loose, then there's
you left your
consequences.
door wide open.
Doors open, windows open, cell phones on, mobile phone. But we'll talk about that more. But anyway, the 3 things, I think you were getting at that.
Yeah. And so there are 3 ways basically 3 ways we talk about boundaries often, and those are time, task, and territory. And
Triple T.
And those are pretty intuitive as well. Time, when we talk about time, it's usually, maybe we're setting a time frame in which we want to, complete a project in, or we're carving out some time to do a thing we really love. We'll again get into this in a little more depth, but feel free to jump in if you have anything additional you'd like to add around any of these 3 T's. Task is, really protecting our task, being singular and focused on one thing at a time, like no multitasking. And then territory is about the space we're in, like the physical space we're in, and how are we protecting it. And I guess we can talk a little bit about our virtual spaces too. How can we minimize things to protect our virtual space as well as our physical space? But those are the 3 primary ways we talk about boundaries. And we'll talk a bit more and give some examples to bring those to life a little bit more. Is there an example that you're excited to share, Sebastian?
I often think about like back in school, like studying for a test.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you use this is, I think it's pretty clear, but setting a clear time for when you're going to study.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Saturday afternoon from 2 to 5 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And sticking to that, putting it in your calendar, that's your solid time, starting on time, ending on time, getting really clear about what your task is, as you said, singular focus, that was really good. And then territory, which I think for the homework thing is quite important to like set up your space, whether that's your desk or, if you're in the living room or whatever your dynamic is, like setting it up in a way that is going to minimize distractions. And so whether that's closing the door or putting the phone out of the room or minimizing, not having like 15 windows open on your computer.
Right.
Really kind of being attentive to all those 3 T's.
Yeah.
Yeah, triple T.
Got it. Great. And so we talk about boundaries most often when we're talking about technology. There's, of course, plenty of other ways you can use it, as Sebastian even just mentioned in his example. Um, but we like to think of it as they're really great tools and resources for like a reset, right? And so we have 4 things that we recommend that if you can get those boundaries in place, they can make really big, meaningful, impactful changes for you in your life. So,
and I think the context of this, again, just to like reiterate, is it's an opportunity. We're like change of seasons, things are changing, school and all that. This is an opportunity to really like examine the boundaries you have. Again, we're going to be talking about technology primarily, but it can be whatever you want to examine.
Yeah, no, that's helpful. The context, zooming back out is really helpful because in transitions, the structure, the boundaries are helpful. They help us succeed. They help us achieve what we want to achieve. Okay, so the four things are home for your phone, and I'll elaborate on these in a second, not in the bedroom, unplugged time, and digital curfew. Those are the 4 things. So I'll take the first one.
Okay,
yeah, you can jump
go
in.
for it.
Okay, so creating a home for your phone, we love this one. We talk about it all the time. It was one of the biggest, I don't want to say easiest, but biggest impact changes for us in our lives. And it was really about finding a place to put our phone when we weren't using it intentionally. We have a charging station in our living room that we use, and that's like the hub for it when we're not using it. For a while, we used the basket in our entryway as a place to put our phone right when we came home. And this really helps because otherwise it's really easy to have this habit of just carrying your phone around with you at all times, whether it's in your pocket or your hand, and you end up wandering around your house just with your phone. And then the more you have your phone at your fingertips, the more you're checking it unconsciously, et cetera. It gets in the way. You start filling your time with it when you maybe want to be doing something else instead. So that's a home for your phone.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on.
Yes.
So the next one is not in the bedroom, and we've talked about some of these before. I think these 4. If you're going to do any of the the tips and practices that we do, these are like kind of the core 4.
Mm-hmm.
So finding a home for your phone. The other one is not in the bedroom, meaning getting your phone out of the bedroom, and we recommend getting all tech out of the bedroom, TVs included. But this was a huge one that for us, a big part of our journey in this has been our relationship and really kind of checking in and seeing like how technology is impacting our relationship for good and for evil. I won't say evil, but bad.
For better or worse.
Better or worse, yeah. And I think that was one thing that we just kind of got in the habit. The phone was our alarm clock. That's the primary reason I think it's in the bedroom.
Yep.
But it's so easy to get in the habit of scrolling through social media or checking the news before going to bed and first thing in the morning.
Pinterest for me.
Pinterest
scroller. Mm-hmm.
Classic. I think I was Instagram.
Yeah.
I'd often check the surf reports just for
just in case you needed to get out there
deep for the next day. So
got it.
Come on, night or night surfing. But yeah, just like it became a kind of unconscious pattern that we slipped into, and was like didn't serve us that well.
No,
didn't serve us that well. And same thing in the morning. You wake up, alarm goes off, and you're like, oh, notifications. What are the waves doing? So you're just getting Pinterest. Are there notifications on Pinterest?
I think I had them off.
Great.
But other social media and texts and calls and all that stuff.
Emails. Yeah. You it's the first thing you see when you wake up, and it's so easy to jump on the phone, and then you spend, a certain amount of time just kind of scrolling around.
Yeah.
Not that helpful. So this is kind of it's linked to home for your phone, but basically we got our phones. This is actually the first thing we did was getting our phones out of the bedroom.
Yeah.
The order.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, and then we were like, where does it go?
Yeah.
It's not in our bedroom.
So then we created the home for our phone. So it's a charging station out for us. It's in our living room, and that was huge for 2 things that are really huge for creating those boundaries.
Yes. And then I'm actually going to jump to digital curfew because I feel like that's pretty related also. This is, when your phone goes to its home, when you go to your bedroom, you don't take it with you. What time is that? Maybe it happens before you go to bed. And so A digital curfew is, when do you put your tech and devices away at night, and when do you get them back out in the morning? And this is useful because, again, if we're not thoughtful about this, it's really easy to use it up until the last minute before you go to bed and look at it first thing in the morning. Generally, it's recommended, at least 1 hour before you go to sleep and 1 hour after you wake up. If you're psyched and want to do 2 hours, that's great. We try to do 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. Sometimes we are successful, sometimes we are not. But that's part of the process too. We'll be upfront about that. It's not perfect. But it's helpful to have a goal and a thing you're working towards, just to not unconsciously keep it with you too long at night or check it too early in the morning.
Got it.
Digital curfew.
So we have home for your phone, not in the bedroom, getting your phone out of the bedroom, and digital curfew.
Yes.
Okay, next, last but not least.
Yeah, important one.
Creating unplugged time, boundaries for unplugged time.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, again, this can look different for different people, but our recommendation is scheduling in at least an hour of unplugged time daily. And this means like no phone, no devices, even wearable technology. If you can part with ways with that for a little bit, super encouraged.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a wonderful opportunity. It doesn't have to be a nature thing, but this is a wonderful opportunity to do a nature activity, going for a walk, going to the park, going to the beach, whatever access to nature you have. This is great. But you can insert whatever you want into that space. But I think
did you say a time, like an amount of time?
Yeah, I think 1 hour. Yeah, 1 hour minimum, I'd say. I think you can certainly ramp it up, but I think it's so important to have that like scheduled as a daily thing, because depending on even whether you're in school or you're working, it's so easy for that to not happen. And certainly most people have little breaks, but having a solid hour is huge.
Yeah, and you may even need to put that on your calendar, like literally block it out somehow. Calendar.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's how sometimes it works for me. It's easy to flow through the day and then miss my 1 hour unplugged time. Sometimes I get way more than that, but if I'm not careful on busy days, that might slip away from me.
For sure.
Yeah.
So those are 4, and these are all boundary activities, right?
Yeah.
So home for your phone is really about territory.
Yeah.
Not in the bedroom.
Also territory.
Yeah. Interesting. Unplugged time.
I think that's all. It's like a task.
It's you have something else to do. Yeah. And then
digital curfew. That's mostly time.
That's time, and a little bit like tasky, because like during that we didn't really talk about this, but
what do you do in that
evening time. We also talk about this as like bookending your day.
Yeah.
So creating let's say your time boundary for putting your digital curfew is 8 p.m. That's preserving some sort of task. Maybe it's like a bedtime routine.
Mm-hmm.
Reading, stretching, meditating, puzzling, making lanyards,
making face masks and lanyards. It's great, but we don't want to undersell the importance of those replacement activities. I think when we're used to using our devices all the time, when we put them down and away, it can be a little befuddling what to do.
Befuddling.
I know, I wasn't sure whether to use that one.
What does that mean? Like confusing?
I think so. Or that's
that's a great word.
What I was using it for. So, think about it. It might take a little bit to get in touch with what you want to fill that time with, and that's okay. But like stick with it and explore it, what you enjoy.
Totes my goats. And I think that's the core reason why boundaries are important. I mean, certainly it's important to get the task done, whether it's work or stuff, but it's like really boundaries create the space, create the container for doing the things we really love to do. And I think that's the tricky thing, which we have talked about in the past, and we'll certainly talk about more. But in this day and age with the attention economy, so many different apps and platforms and devices vying for our attention, that if we don't have these solid boundaries, we just get sucked into the vortex.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden there's no time for, it's less likely to have nature time, or it's less likely to have puzzle time. Or whatever, and you just end up having like a lot of Netflix time, a lot of Instagram time. Yeah, or checking the surf report.
Yeah. Yes, that's true. Oh, but what about our big news? One of our big boundaries in terms of territory.
What is it?
we are going to be moving the TV out of our living room, which is a big deal. We've tried it once before. We got a little out of control with our TV time on Netflix, watching a few episodes a night, and it was more than we wanted to. And just had trouble not doing it. Like, knew that we wanted to stop doing it, but the TV was there. It was so inviting. The shows were so good. So we moved it out, and then we ended up moving it back in. And now we're in a place again where it's time to move it out. And so maybe that's useful to offer that, some boundaries may not be permanent, but they can help sort of with a reset. So that's what we're going to be doing here soon this weekend, actually.
I do like sports, though. That's a tricky thing for me is sports, But I guess there's, again, give and take.
Right.
Give and take.
Yeah.
I'll be okay.
Yeah, I think we'll. And yeah, the things we will gain outweigh the things we will lose.
Think of all the lanyards.
Save the lanyards.
Save all the lanyards we can make.
But that is the essence of why boundaries are important, is this creating space for the other things we really want to be doing and enjoy doing, and sometimes get lost or pushed to the side when we're not careful or thoughtful, etc.
Great.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, do we want to have a boundary challenge?
Yeah, I think the core 4 would be.
Core 4.
Yeah. I think ideally the whole core 4.
Yeah.
But at the very least one.
No.
Okay.
Core 4. All of them.
Core 4. I'm pretty into actually the core 4.
Ooh, core 4. Yeah, I've been working through this. Okay, so the challenge for this episode, this week, is the core 4. Meaning, those are these foundational practices to get your boundaries in order. Great for going back to school, or for kids
starting a new season,
getting it going, tightening it up, resetting the tech vortex situation. And those are, again, finding a home for your phone. Actually, what we should do? We will link in the podcast notes. We just did a video on this.
That's right.
A quick little video on finding a home for your phone with more details. Getting tech out of the bedroom. We didn't talk about this, but we've talked about it in the past. Is if you're thinking to yourself, my phone's my alarm clock. There is great news here. In fact, alarm clocks exist.
They still exist, regular old alarm, and they're actually way cooler than they used to be. Now there's a lot of options.
Pretty legit.
Yeah.
So get an alarm clock. Unplugged time. We say our recommendation is 1 hour at least of unplugged time per day. You can go more. You can go bigger.
That's true. Don't
hold back on our behalf. Go nuts. And then digital curfew, which is kind of a bedtime for your. Think about it. Yeah, we know what curfew means.
Phones, devices. Yeah, when they
bedtime, wake up time. Interesting.
Let us know how it goes.
Yeah, let us know how it goes. Let us know how it goes. The core 4. We'll include the core 4 in the podcast notes as well.
Yep.
Beautiful. Well, that's a little look at boundaries. The container.
Whatever container you want.
But make sure that you pay attention to the container, because it holds your dreams.
Yeah.
Your wishes, your wants, your desires. I'm not on that. Lanyards. Think about all. Yeah. Anyway, core 4. Get it going. Awesome. So that's our episode. Podcast. Video, first time.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. New.
Hello. It's new. Okay, so thank you so much for tuning into the Nature Unplugged podcast. You can find our episodes on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, basically everywhere you get your podcast platforms. And now, very exciting news, we are on YouTube. You can watch us talk. I just want to make a note on this. I kind of get weird sometimes when I hear people just audio. I get kind of weirded out when I see them.
Oh, when you don't know what they
look like. Like a radio host, and I'm like kind of. But don't worry about that. Just have a look. Check us out. If you want to go back to the plain old podcast listening, that's fine too. We would love it if you could take a moment to subscribe and rate us on Apple Podcasts. That'd be great. And while you're at it, YouTube too. Why not?
Yeah.
And if you're looking for more information, we've got tons of wonderful resources on our website, www.natureunplugged.com. We've got all sorts of stuff there, podcast blogs, and all sorts of things about what we're doing this fall.
Yeah, fall options.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for listening, and we will catch you next time.
Bye.
Things change like seasons out of our control.